A storm is coming. The air is hot and humid. If I look on the horizon, there's dark rain clouds blowing in. We're due to have a thunderstorm in about an hour or two. I'll be moving all my succulent trees into the greenhouse under cover so they don't get rained on. This hot, humid weather is the kind of weather that ficus just love. They grow like crazy when it's hot and humid out. My willow leaf ficus, after its repotting and defoliation and pruning, is coming back into leaf really nicely. My trees could use a watering, but I'm going to wait until after the rainstorm. I'll see how heavy the rain is and maybe I won't have to water at all. I've done some rearranging in the greenhouse here. I have all my succulent trees on the left-hand side here. My desert rose, my jades, my baobabs, my aloes, crown of thorns, portulacaria afras. So this area of the greenhouse I don't water as much. And on the other side, I have all my small bonsai, ones that dry out quickly, a lot of my ficus, some of my tropical trees, so they get watered and misted a little more. Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. The rain will be coming soon and I'm trying to decide what tree I'm going to work on today. I just finished my large forest. It was 2 days of meticulous work. My Avatar Grove, my old growth cedar forest, needs the same treatment, but I think today I'm just going to work on some pruning of some smaller trees. My Avatar Grove in here is growing really well. It's very lush. There's a lot of pruning work I can do on it. I think it'll be a fun project to tackle. Wow, it's going to rain very soon. Check out that wind picking up. Oh no. I think my wife is outside doing papers. Oh my goodness, this is going to be quite a storm. There's a severe thunderstorm watch. Mother Nature is pruning out all the old leaves out of this tree. So today I'm going to start on, you better get inside, my friend. You're going to get soaked. There's our rooster. I think I'm going to start today on my Norway Maple. So you can see some of the large leaves. These are from spring, very early spring. It was in the greenhouse. And I'm going to defoliate it and prune it up. I've got the maple in the greenhouse here. It's getting very dark out. Defoliation is very stressful on the tree. This tree was overwintered in the greenhouse, so it had really good conditions. All this spring growth has been on the tree for several months now, so I think the tree has lots of energy in it, stored in it, that I can defoliate it, prune it up, and then there's lots of time left in the summer for it to regrow its new leaves and recover from the pruning. Here is a look at the tree. I grew this tree from a seed in the front garden, pruned it up in the ground over many years, so it's got a really nice trunk and root base. I am kind of worried that it's too thick at the base, that it looks more like a bonsai than a tree you'd see in nature. I'll show you a close-up of the trunk. Here is a look at the trunk of the tree. You can see it's got some nice subtle movement. It's got good taper. It's got a nice flared root base, so it's looking quite nice. I thought about repotting it in spring, but I decided not to because it was draining really well, and it still is. When I water this tree, the water just drains through really nicely, so it's not pot bound. The roots haven't filled the pot yet, so I'm glad I didn't repot it in spring. I don't think there was any need to. Maybe next spring I'll repot it, depending on the growth. The rain has started. So here's the growth on this tree. You can see there's some really strong shoots. So it did well this spring. It pushed out really nicely. I've had a lot of problems with this tree in the past. Weak growth, dieback. The repotting seemed to really help it. It got it back on track health-wise. So I hope I'm doing the right thing. defoliating and pruning it today. I think I made the right decision not watering my trees this morning. This is a good hard rain. They'll all get a really good watering. Growing bonsai is always a balancing act between the vigor of the tree and the bonsai work to make it miniature. Somewhere in there, there's a good balance. I think if I left this tree alone, these shoots would extend more and I would start losing some of the finer branching on the interior of the tree. I would just get this thick, coarse branch growing out here and maybe lose some of the finer ones. So that's why I'm going to defoliate the tree and prune it up today. All right, here I go with the defoliation. It's really raining out. I kept my larch forest in partial shade here just so that new growth doesn't get sunburned after removing all the larger needles off the tree. Norway maples have a white milky sap, and you can see it on the ends where I pruned off the leaves, the little white drops of sap. You can tell it's hot and humid out. The vents on the greenhouse are open still. Here is a look at the tree defoliated. It looks a little more miniature now. So next I've got to decide what branches I'm going to prune. Some of my spring pruning wasn't very successful. If you look at the end of this branch, I hard pruned it off here, hoping this shoot would grow, and it didn't. Instead, it grew vertical up here, and this shoot didn't leaf out. I had a few hard prunes over on this side also. Instead of activating the buds on the bottom side of this branch, I just got new vertical shoots growing up. So I wasn't 100% successful with my winter pruning, but I'll work with what I have. It must be getting cooler outside. My greenhouse is fogging up. Usually it's warmer in the greenhouse and cooler outside, but I think today is the opposite. It's still quite muggy in the greenhouse. It's raining so hard I can't really talk over the rain, so I'm going to make a mad dash indoors and I'll come back when the rain is letting up. It's been about an hour now. The rain is starting to let up. I can hear myself talk in the greenhouse here once again. There's still thunder rumbling away in the background, but I'll keep working on the tree now. I'm still looking at my winter pruning here. So you can see here I pruned this branch off, sealed the cut with my rubber cement, which works really, really well. If I rotate the tree around, you can see my deadwood section here where the main trunk died off long ago. And I sealed this whole area with rubber cement, and it did a really good job. No moisture got into the wood. My wounds are rolling around the rubber cement. It's still flexible enough that it allows these wounds to heal. So I'm really happy with the rubber cement as a sealant. I think it works really, really well. Going back to this branch, I left a branch coming off to the left-hand side here, pruning this one off, hoping I could redirect the branch out this direction. It didn't. It failed, and I got a new shoot coming off on this side, which is not the side I wanted. From the front, it kind of crosses the trunk line. So my winter pruning wasn't all that successful. Now, it could be the species of the tree, that it's just not very, it doesn't react well to pruning, or maybe I shouldn't prune it in winter. I should wait for the spring growth to come and then prune it. So I'll try that approach next year. I'll wait for the shoots to activate in spring and then prune it back and see how that works. The problem with pruning the tree in early spring is that the tree is very active and you'll get a lot of sap bleeding out from your cut points. So you're wasting a lot of the tree's energy. So I think this spring I'll wait, I'll let it flush out, I'll let that growth harden off a bit, and then I'll prune it back when the tree is a little less active. Here's another example where I pruned it hoping this shoot would elongate and grow. It didn't, it just died off, and I got a new shoot, a strong one growing here. So yeah, there was a lot of examples of my winter pruning where it didn't work out very well for the tree, the design of the tree. Health-wise, it's fine, but here's a branch that's growing in towards the tree, growing across the trunk line. That'll have to be removed entirely. Many of the new shoots that have grown in aren't ideally placed, so I'll just have to prune it up, working with what I have, trying to prune it up the best I can. I picked this as the front of the tree. It shows, a lot of good movement, nice taper. The main branch is coming towards you, and it hides all that nasty scarring at the back. I'm just rotating the tree around now, looking for other possible fronts. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything better, so I think I'll stick to this as the front of the tree. Alright, so let's begin the pruning now. I think the first branch I'm going to prune off is that one that's crossing the trunk line, so I'll take that off entirely. The branch I'm going to prune off does have some buds at the base, so I could grow a more vertical branch in that area, but if I look from the front view, it would be growing directly in front of the trunk line behind it, so it's got to come off entirely. So here I go. Open my cutters up a bit more, and off it comes. Just like that. I'll continue pruning up this branch so it comes off here, which is a nice direction. I have a branch coming here. There's a bud at the back, so I can prune it off shorter. And I'll prune it halfway between my leaf nodes here, allowing for some dieback. So here I go, shortening that branch. And then I have another branch coming off here. There's some dormant buds at the base here, so I think I'll just take the tip off and see what happens in that area. There's a branch here that's kind of growing from the inside of a curve, and it's opposite this thicker branch here. So I don't think I can use that branch. I've got to prune it off. So here I go. Like that. Pruning that one entirely away. Now this branch, I was hoping it would continue to grow out here. However, it's chosen to just grow vertically here. And you can see there's large inner nodes. So there's no buds in this whole section of the branch. There are some dormant buds at the base down here, which when I prune this may become active, and I may get a more flowing branch. So I will prune this one off, the tip off here, like that, and see what happens on that branch. I'm not going to prune off this dead part yet. I'll wait until this, starts growing strongly once again. Out the back I have the same situation. I have a branch I pruned off here, the buds died back, and I have a vertical branch. So I will shorten that as a starter, like that. I'll just take this leaf petiole back a bit, and that's about all I can do. It's not the most graceful structure for a maple. Maybe someday that whole top will have to come off, and I'll grow it from these branches, the new branch leaders. So that will come in the future. Now this branch off here to the left-hand side, I've got one shoot on it. Everything else died back. And I have a new shoot at the base down here. I'm going to keep this branch and prune this one away. I don't want a second branch down there. So off that comes. And I'll have to develop this branch from this leader. So that's got these two trunk lines or branches pruned up. Now I have a new shoot coming out the back here, and I've got to decide, do I want it? It is two branches coming from one spot on the tree. and it may cause a thickening in this area. However, do I need it or do I want it? I don't think so. It's hidden behind the trunk line, and I think it'll just cause problems in the future. So that's going to come off also, like that. Next, I'm looking at my main trunk line coming up. I've got a stub here I can prune off. And I've got a dead branch here that will need pruning off. I can tell it's dead by the color of it. I'll leave it on for now, you know, in case something develops down here, but it's unlikely. I've got a branch coming straight towards me here. It's not in a bad location. If I prune it off here, I'll get something coming, you know, a lower, more horizontal branch, and I can redirect it so it's not poking straight towards me. So I'll prune it here, prune it off, and see what happens in that area. I can always prune it off in the future. I do have a bud developing on the inside of the curve down here. I'm going to prune that away. I don't want a branch growing in that area. So that brings me up to the apex of the tree here. I have a vertical branch, which is fine. It subdivides, which is nice. And I have another branch coming out the back. I think I'll keep the one coming out the back, just pruning it off shorter, like that. These ones, I'll also prune the tips off them to get more subdividing on the branch. And that leaves me with one more branch, the strongest branch on the tree, which is a new branch that grew in spring. I've got to see where I'm going to prune it. So from the front, it's kind of running parallel to this trunk line. It's not the best location. It's super vigorous, and it's not a branch I like. I don't want to prune it off. I do like this trunk line coming out the back. It's a pity this didn't grow. Maybe, you know, I pruned it too close to the branch. I should have left the stub. There are two buds on this branch right here and here. So there's one coming forward and one coming back. So I want the one at the back to develop, and that'll replace this branch. So I'm going to do a hard prune here on this branch. I'm going to prune it halfway between here. So here I go, like that. And I'm hoping it activates these buds, especially this back one here. And then I'll have a good branch in that location. So that finishes up the pruning of the tree. Let's step back and have a look at it. Here is a look at the tree now. So it's more compact. I've got some of the branches going, you know, in good directions. So I'll let it grow, see what happens, how it grows for the rest of the summer. And there may be some more tip pinching on it as these new leaves and branches grow in before winter comes. I've done a lot of root work on this tree over the years, and you can see the nice flared root base. It's looking very, very mature. The tree is planted fairly deeply in the pot, so over the years I may raise it a bit to get some of these surface roots, the finer surface roots showing. A lot of these heavy pruning marks on the trunk are healing over really nicely. It's showing a lot of age and character now. So this tree from a seed is about, I would say, 20 years old now. It's getting to be quite an old tree. On the trunk, there are some splits forming in the bark as it grows. So eventually it'll get that characteristic Norway maple tree bark on the trunk. So that'll be exciting to watch that. You can see at the back here, there's some good splitting. As it grows, it cracks the bark, and yeah, it helps make the tree look more mature. Very exciting. I'll put my Norway maple tree out in the rain now to get a good watering, and I'll get out the next tree I'll be working on today. The next tree I'll be working on is this Amur Maple, another European tree. As you can see, it's growing really, really tall. Today I'm going to prune it back. This tree is grown from a seed, and you can see how thick the trunk is, and it's not that old. I think it's going into its third or fourth year. I've done quite a severe cut at the back here, pruning off the main leader, replacing it. So today I'm just going to prune back these long shoots, getting the tree more compact once again. All right, big cuts coming up here. I'm looking where to prune these branches. I've got a nice little branch fanning out here, so I think I'll take it just above there. Here I go. There's the first long branch pruned off. The next one, I'm looking for leaves that are fanning out in the right direction. So here is my branch, and I'm trying to decide where to prune it. I could go right back to these two leaves down here, or a little higher to these leaves. This one's fanning out nicely, this one's fanning out towards the back. I think in this case, I'm going to take it back to this leaf, hoping a bud activates out the back here. So if I prune it back to here, I've got no safety factor. If it dies back, then I've lost this branch. So if I prune it up here, it's a little more safe. I might get, new shoots coming out here, which would be okay. And I'm hoping to get one coming out here. So I'll prune it off here. Here I go. Big cut coming up. Here I go. Just like that. Here is my tree now. It's looking much more compact. I'm just looking at it to see if there's any more pruning I can do. This branch here hasn't developed much. This branch comes up, divides, which is fine. I'll just prune the very tip off this branch, getting some more subdivision, more branch choices for the future. I'll take my past pruning stub out here, up the middle there. And I think that's it. I think the Amur Maple is looking quite nice. This is a case of a tree grown from a seed that has a lot of potential for the future. It's got an old looking trunk. It's got the start of a very good branch structure to create a broom style canopy. So I think it's on its way to becoming a very nice bonsai for the distant future. Out into the rain goes my Amur Maple. Let's get out the next tree. The next tree I'll be pruning up is a native red maple. This was a kind of a twisty looking tree that was growing in the front garden. It grew from a seed. It's done quite well since the winter pruning. Some of the leaves have a kind of a red color on them, and that's because it got hit by frost just after the leaves came out. And then we got a super hot, dry spell, and they kind of turned a bit of a reddish color. So again, I'm going to defoliate this tree and prune it up. All right, here I go with the defoliation. Just take all the leaves off. So these trees, I'll protect them in the winter in the greenhouse so they won't see a really harsh winter. So they should recover from these operations, these pruning and defoliation operations, just fine, because they'll see such good conditions. These red maples are a native species to North America, and they're the most widely distributed tree in North America. They grow all the way from Florida up to here in Canada. And they're a very hardy tree. They're fairly small leaves on them too. Not a bad species for bonsai. I've seen some very good bonsai created out of these native red maples. They don't have, as small leaves as the Japanese maples, but for a native tree, they're pretty good. And they're free trees that you can gain experience on pruning up maples on. So you can think of it as a good training tree to develop your techniques, or you can just keep growing it and create a really nice bonsai. So the defoliation is complete now. Let's start pruning the branches. The tree looks quite beautiful with these red leaf petioles. I'm going to begin the pruning by pruning off these long shoots that are sticking up. That way I can get the camera in closer for the rest of the branch pruning. I'm going to begin the pruning on this branch. I've got a nice division down here, some leaf buds, so I'll prune it off here, like that. The one out the back, the same, I'll prune it back compact to here. And then the one coming out the back, I'll prune it off to here. This one, I can prune back to here. And that gets my major tall branches pruned back. Here is a look at the tree now. So you can see it has some very natural twisty movement to it. I did a hard prune here, and that's healing over quite nicely. There's been a bit of, oh, there's a spider, no, it's an earwig in there. A bit of damage here. The wood is soft, it's kind of split. I think there's probably a bit of insect damage in there. So I'll give that a spray with soap and water. That should clear out any insects in there. Like that. Now, let's start pruning. I've got a new branch here, kind of around this bulgy part. I don't want that. I want my first branch division up here. So I'll prune that off entirely. Like that. So my main trunk line comes up here. It's looking good. I have this branch comes out. It's kind of straight in this section. There are some buds back here. If I hard prune it, it's a little risky. I could lose that branch. So I'm just going to prune this one back further to here. And then I've got one growing down, which I will also prune the tip off. Like that. That may stimulate these buds to grow, and then I can shorten that branch to here. My apex, I've got a stub here I can prune back, where I pruned that last time. One back here also. Cleaning the tree up. I think this division is fine here. The apex is okay. This branch is thicker than my one growing vertical, so I'm not going to prune the tip off this one. I want to encourage that to strengthen up. This will become a branch, and this will be the branch leader up here. The branch coming out here, I have a choice of shortening it back to these leaves here. It's a tough call. I think the length is good. It's shorter, this upper branch, than the one below it. I think if I shortened it to here, I don't think I need to. I'm going to leave it as it is. The one out the back is fine as it is. So I think this branch or trunk line is pruned up quite nicely now. So I think I'll concentrate on this one. So here I've got two opposite branches, one fanning out nicely, one crossing the trunk line, so this one will come out like that. I can prune the tip off this one, and I will. And then this trunk line comes up. I've got a branch coming forward, one to the back, which is looking good. I'll take the stub out the center, cleaning that up. And then I think, I want this the branch leader, so I'm not going to prune the tip off that branch, and I've already pruned the one out the back, so this should grow a little stronger as the new leader of the branch. And I think, it's fairly straight in this section, but this tree is young. I think that'll look quite nice as the tree gets older. I don't think it's too straight. I think it has some taper or some subtle movement. I think it'll look quite good. So that is this tree all pruned up. I'll just take this shoot back a bit more. It's all pruned up, looking good. I'll just let it grow now. All these pruning decisions I'm making on these young trees will help develop the tree into the future. I prefer to grow the trees slowly and carefully rather than just put them in the ground or in a growing box and let them grow wild. I think it gives you a better tree in the end. The last tree I'll be working on today is my black maple. Here is a look at my black maple, and you can see it's growing quite tall. It's very vigorous. I have two choices. I could just let it grow and thicken up the trunk and develop, or I can prune it back and start my branching, creating maybe a smaller tree. I don't want this to grow into a great big giant maple, so I'm going to do the pruning today, pruning it up to create a smaller or a medium-sized maple. On this tree, I have a very tall trunk. I pruned it off here once before. You can see the stub where I pruned it, so I'll take that out. Ooh, tough. There we go. Last time I pruned the tree, I pruned it off here and it's developed two branches, one to the left and one to the right. This one's thicker, more vigorous, and this one's a little thinner. So I'm going to prune this one off here. I've got some good branches here. I don't see anything down lower. I do have some dormant buds coming out the front and the back. Actually, there's a branch out the back here that's developed. I could prune it off even shorter, but I think this is a good height. So I will prune that branch off now, the tall leader of this tree. So here I go, and I'll go halfway between the nodes, just like that, taking the whole top off the tree. The branch off to the right here, there's no branching on it. My first set of leaves is up here, and that's kind of a long straight section. I do have some dormant buds at the base here, so I'm going to prune this branch off quite short to here. So here I go. That leaves this trunk line bare, but it should grow in quite nicely. I will defoliate the leaf that's hanging over that branch to give it light, so I do get these buds developing, that they're not shaded out. And then I'm going to come down lower on the trunk line now. I have a division here. These are opposite branches. I have one to the left and one to the right. I'm going to keep my stronger one here and prune off the weaker one because I have one further down on the same side. So this one comes right off, so I can develop this branch. I've got the one staggered over here, and I have another one staggered down below. I don't need to prune any of these branches. They're developing just fine. I want to keep the strength in the lower branches and prune the top a little more severely. The one branch coming out the back, I will prune that, just the tip off it, like that, and I should get some subdividing out of that back branch. So that has got my last maple for today pruned up, my black maple. It's looking good. It should develop quite a nice crown on the tree for the future. It's time now for today's update. Today's update, I'm going to open up my Jurassic Park Jeep. It's all fogged up in here, and I'm going to try it out in front of my Australian umbrella tree. All right, let's open up the Jurassic Park Jeep. This was my Father's Day present from Julian. Thanks, Julian. It's awesome. If I can get it open. There we go. It's already got a cool scene in the background. So how is this held on? Let me see. Oh, I need a screwdriver to unscrew it from the plastic base. So I'll get a screwdriver. That means I have to go out in the rain again. I've got the Jeep unscrewed from the base. Let's try it out with the Schefflera. All right, let's try the Jeep out in the landscape. I don't want to, have it in front of the tree, so I think, maybe somewhere back here like that looks okay. It looks in scale with the tree, that's for sure. Yeah, kind of adds a Jurassic Park theme to it. Now I could plant more jungle growth around it, some small trees around it to make it look more like the middle of a jungle. That would look quite nice. I don't know if it's perfectly suited for this. I may do a separate Jurassic Park themed planting in the future, but there it is. There's the Jeep with my Schefflera. This afternoon I have a Zoom meeting with a bonsai club from the United Kingdom. That should be a lot of fun. I had a Zoom meeting with them back in, I think, 2020, 3 years ago. So it'll be nice to see them again. That is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.